Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're diving into a really powerful, legally backed alternative for children with special needs, especially for when the traditional school system just isn't cutting it anymore. So let's just start with the big question, the one that probably brought you here in the first place. When school is clearly not working for your child, what do? What are your options when that well-trodden path just isn't the right fit?
And maybe, as you look at this list, you see your own child. We're talking about those kids who just can't cope because of overwhelming anxiety or sensory needs, or kids with medical conditions that make a school building totally unsuitable. Maybe you've tried specialist schools, you've tried mainstream, and nothing has worked. For them, the in-school environment itself becomes the barrier. So where do you go from there? Well, that brings us to this different path. Fortunately, the law actually provides a formal, fully funded alternative designed for these exact situations, and it's called Education Otherwise Than at School, or EOTAS for short. Okay, so what is EOTS, really? In simple terms, it's a legal framework where your local authority has to step in and both arrange and pay for your child's education, but outside of a school. That's the key part.
And this is probably one of the most important distinctions to get your head around. EOTAS is not the same as elective home education. With home education, you, the parent, choose to take on all the responsibility, the planning, the cost, everything. With EOTAS, the local authority remains legally and financially on the hook for making sure your child gets the education they're entitled to. Big difference.
Okay, so if this is sounding like it could be the answer, you're probably asking, right, how do we actually make this happen? Well, the entire process is managed through the official Education, Health, and Care Plan, or EHCP system.
And you should know, this isn't just some local policy or a favor they might do for you. No, this is all grounded in law. The Children and Families Act of 2014 is crystal clear. The Council's duty to provide what's in an EHCP doesn't stop at the school gates.
So the path itself really breaks down into four main steps. First, you need that EHCP. Then, you have to formally argue that school is unsuitable, and, this is critical, you have to back it up with strong professional evidence. If the local authority agrees, their next job is to write that custom package right into Section F of the plan.
So what does one of these packages actually look like? If you go through this whole process and you're successful, what do you get at the end? Well, this is the exciting part. The answer is it looks like whatever your child needs it to look like.
It's all about being flexible and creative. A package could have one-to-one tutors coming to the home, it could have online learning, it could have all the therapies your child needs, speech, OT, mental health support, it could even include things like forest school or social skills groups. It's totally tailored.
And that right there, that is the guiding principle of EOTAS. The entire education package is built from the ground up, completely from scratch, to meet the very specific individual needs of your child, as they're detailed in their plan.
Now, a really practical question that always comes up is, okay, is this a permanent fix, or is it just a temporary stopgap? And the answer is, well, it can be either. For some kids, it's a short-term bridge while a suitable school is found. But for others, it might be the right solution for the long haul. The really important thing is that it gets reviewed every single year to make sure it's still working and still meeting your child's needs as they grow and change.
All right, before you even think about starting this journey, there are a few things that are just non-negotiable. You absolutely have to understand these key points.
First, and this is a big one, this is not a do-it-yourself project where they just hand you a pot of money. The local authority is legally on the hook to organize and fund the provision that's in the plan. Second, you have to be ready for this. The bar for getting EOTS is set pretty high. You're going to need solid, compelling evidence from professionals, doctors, therapists, psychologists, that clearly shows why no school setting can work for your child.
And finally, here's the good news. Once that EOTAS package is written into Section F of the EHCP, it is legally binding. The local authority has a legal duty to provide it. That gives you a huge amount of security.
Now, I know this whole thing can sound incredibly daunting, like a huge mountain to climb. But here is the most important message I can give you. You do not have to do this alone. There are some fantastic organizations out there that can be your allies.
Your local Sendias service is there to give you impartial advice. You've got groups like IPCA, who have deep legal expertise. And then you have places like Special Needs Jungle and Contact, which offer just incredible parent-friendly resources and support.
So, what's the big takeaway here? Look, EOTS isn't the answer for every child, but for those kids who truly cannot manage in any kind of school, it can be an absolute lifeline. It can open a door to an education that is finally personal, that's meaningful, and that actually empowers them. Which leaves you with a pretty powerful thought, doesn't it? What could your child achieve if their education was built not around a system, but entirely around them?